Hi, my name is Heather Muse, and we're back with the Muse broadcast today. I am your host for today, and Katsura is actually our flow facilitator, keeping us on topic and moving forward. So Katsura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, certainly. Hi, I am Katsura, and today I will be acting as the flow facilitator, and this is something that will be interchangeable, and we just came up with the idea to kind of, at the last week's strategic kind of action plan meeting day, so we are working with this, and it's going to be, you can watch us as we are learning how to best, organize and create a structure to keep the flow most efficient. So thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, and thank you for doing that this week, Katsura. And then we have a pretty small group today. We only have one more person in our group, in our conversation, and that would be Lacey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Lacey Bennett, and I live in Wenatchee, Washington. I am a holistic health coach, and I am excited to join us today.
Wonderful.
We're so
Thank you, Lacey.
To be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for having me. Yes, thank you for having me. I love being here.
You're welcome. So we have a few topics that we're talking about today, and one of them is about communication, how to have clear communication and avoid miscommunication. Another topic is about vitality, staying energized and healthy during these trying times. And then also about, everyone's gone.
Oh, we're still here.
You're still here.
Oh, Jesus.
We're here. We're here.
Are you really here?
Yes,
yeah.
Well, it's telling me that both of your videos are suspended due to network problems, and so I can't see you, which is odd to continue the conversation when I can't see you.
Yes. I can see you.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, well, if you can see me, we'll just keep on going. Okay.
We're going to record.
So this is good practice for the radio broadcast that will be coming up soon, where we'll be interviewing someone by radio and not really seeing each other face to face.
Yes.
What I wanted to talk about first was communication. And, I had an experience where I tried to share myself with someone, coming from a good place. My heart was in a good place. And then they experienced it or received it in the opposite way that I was intending. And so there's different aspects to appropriate communication. I mean, there's clear, expression of what you mean. And then there's also active listening. So I think if communication breaks down, it's both parties' responsibility to see where it broke down on their end, because usually it's more than one person that's having the communication breakdown. So something that was brought to my attention recently is active listening. So when we hear somebody say something to us, and especially if it triggers us, especially if we feel defensive or it triggers us in some way, it's a really good idea to repeat back to them the way that you interpret what they're saying or how you understand what they're saying. So active listening would be then saying, so this is how I understand what you just said, and then you say it back in your own words. And sometimes that's not at all how they meant it, and then you realize you don't need to be triggered about that. That's my experience in communication this week. And I know that we had some Mercury retrograde, which was causing a little bit of energetic problems as far as communication and being clear with our words. Also, I like to use stones and crystals. I'm really into crystals, gemstone therapy. And so lapis is actually a really good stone. It's blue and it has some gold sparkles in it, but it's a really good stone to use to promote clear communication.
That's great. Active listening is so important, and reflecting upon what the other person has said. That way you can communicate effectively. Because I know in health coaching, when I'm with a client, I have to be very present, and I have to be very clear with them about what they've been expressing to me, or else we can miscommunicate, and that can cause some problems.
That's a really good point. Being present, being totally present. Maybe that's the other aspect of clear communication, is that when you enter into a conversation with somebody, that both people can really commit to being present in that conversation. And if there's something else, because this happens to me fairly often, that you enter into a conversation without realizing that you're gonna enter into a conversation, and then my brain is still somewhere else, like I was just about to do this task, or I gotta make sure I get here within 10 minutes or whatever. So for me, you just brought up a great point, Lacey, because that inspired something in me. I feel like it would be really great practice for me to, if I'm not present in a conversation, to just interrupt the conversation briefly and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't being totally present in the conversation, and maybe explain myself a little, like I only have 5 minutes, or I will need to be somewhere, or I was just thinking about this task I need to get done or something. But just putting it out there, being open and transparent about my process, what's going on, and then saying, and my intention is to be totally present in this conversation, so let me start again, or something like that. So that's what my practice is going to be this week. So thank you for bringing that up, Lee. That's a really important point.
Yes.
Mindful. Very mindful.
Yes, it's very important.
You said something earlier that triggers, not allowing ourselves to be triggered. I think sometimes if people are saying something and like they don't intend to, they're not trying to hurt us, or it can be flip our triggers or activate anything within us. And I think it's good to recognize this before they actually happen, and so that way we aren't triggered. If it's something where maybe it's a touchy subject where it's really in depth and about something that is something that shouldn't cause us hurt or can cause us hurt for whatever reason may be, then at that time it's really look at it from their standpoint and say, is this person trying to attack me right now, or are they just expressing themselves in an open way that is very close to my heart, and so then I can feel something from that, and so avoiding those triggers to be set off. And at that point, it helps to keep the communication clear, asking a lot of questions and saying, what did you mean by this? And it's okay to ask a variety of questions. I think people would rather express themselves and could keep kind of, laying things out, as opposed to you going away from the conversation feeling distance because you're not exactly sure what they were trying to say, and so that distance can be felt. And so by asking questions to get a better understanding and be more clear, have greater clarity, that will help in being and keeping that connection strong and really getting the most out of a conversation. It's interesting. Earlier,
I totally agree.
I do too.
Yeah. And then I had a moment earlier.
And making sure.
Go ahead.
Just making sure to, before getting defensive, to clearly think about what you're going to say to the other person. Because I find when people get defensive about something and start getting passionate, they tend to not think about what's coming out of their mouth. And that hinders communication because people start getting hurt, and then people start, miscommunicating.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too, about like how to handle it when you are triggered.
Yes.
I want to come back to that, but I don't want you to forget what you're about to add there. So, you want to say your piece?
Oh, I mean, this is kind of a question. Let's go let's come back to this question. I would like to get a little bit more understanding about what to do when we are triggered. Where do we go from there? If we know, like, our triggers have been set and we are speaking out of emotion. Nothing wrong with feeling emotions, but it's not always good to speak out of emotion. If there are emotions, that are causing our IQ to drop. But when we're angry, our IQs literally drop. So it's probably not the best. Try to be deep and have a conversation.
Right. Yes. So this is what has been working for me. And I'm going to practice it a little bit more and see if I can come up with any even better techniques. And then maybe we can talk about techniques for how to handle when you're triggered next week too, because if we all experience some of it, then we can talk about what works. So what has been really working for me is to be committed to transparency. So that's even transparency with what's going on in my mind, what's going on with my process, what's going on with my emotions. And so I speak to my transparency first. And so before I react and speak from emotion, like if I'm triggered by any reason, then I will first state, well, the thing, first I am feeling this way because of a trigger, or I may not be interpreting what you're saying appropriately, but this is what's coming up for me. And just say, this is what's coming up for me. Nobody can dispute if you just say, this is what's coming up for me. You're not blaming anybody for it. You're just laying it on the table. This is how I'm feeling right now, and I'm not putting any judgment on it, whether it's right or wrong. And then you can go into explaining yourself. Like, I felt like I was being attacked when this happened, or I felt like I was being rejected when you said this. And so I'd like to maybe speak to that or have some clear communication around that. So it's learning a way of managing our speech with one another. It's just like, every culture has a certain way of communicating with each other, a certain way of speaking. And it's like we're learning a new language right now, a new way of, so transparency works for me. How about you? For you, and how can you move ahead with that?
I'm a very emotional person, and when I get triggered, I'm not very good at transparency. You know what I'm thinking. If I get triggered, I go off, and I need to learn to harness the beast, I guess, because there are some things that I am just very passionate about, and when I get triggered, I let that passion flow through, and it's very strong, and I feel bad for the receiving end of that, and I feel like I need to work on for myself. I'm going to be transparent and maybe not letting that fire consume me.
I also believe that it's really important to honor what triggers us, because that's part of our evolution. It's good to recognize it and face it and maybe understand ourselves a little bit better through the triggering. So it's not I really like the concept of working with what triggers us and not trying to avoid the triggering, you know? So yeah. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually, and I don't know if this, so lately what I've been doing, if conversation gets to a point where I feel that I am speaking out of hurt and pain, sometimes I excuse myself. I just say, I need to go right now. I am not in the best state of mind to speak to you. I guess like the triggers sometimes, like I've seen that within my dark side. And sometimes my dark side comes out unexpectedly if I am triggered. And so at that time, and then if I feel this, and this is just coming to an acceptance of my dark side and realizing, with my light, there comes a heaviness. I don't want to necessarily call it a burden, but there's like a heaviness that has come from times of past, experience in learning hurt and understanding pain. And so as soon as that comes out and I speak from this like inner Katsura, then she's still at a point, like, I think, she's healing. She's in the healing process. And so then that's when I just gotta say, like, I need some time. I need some space. Right now, I'm at a point where I could, because I'm triggered, I could hurt you right now, and I don't want to do that. And so, like, I give myself space. Not so much where it's basically just kind of like a counting and a breathing. I get the space, and I count, and I breathe, and I bring myself back to center. And if I'm ready, then space that needs to be faced in a less reactive state. From there.
Yes. I love that, Katsura. You actually honor your feelings, and you spend time with yourself and with your inner wisdom, and let things settle so that you can clearly speak and reach out to people. I think also what's coming up for me, the emotions that are coming up around triggering, it feels like what dispels the trigger so well is to add gratitude and love to it. I feel like adding love to anything works magic. But especially like when we sit with ourselves, with our dark sides, and then we can actually say to ourselves and to our dark side, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming up for me, because it's showing me so much possibility of where I can evolve and grow and become a better person. And thank you for showing me what was lurking in my shadows. And then also going back to the other person and saying the same thing. Like if we didn't express out of our trigger, then we can say thank you for giving me the time that I needed to sit with myself and then come back to you. So we can still give the gratitude and love to them. Or if we did just like speak from emotion and react instead of respond, then we can still go back to the person and say, thank you for being patient with me, and I really appreciate you and love you for being who you are and for accepting me for who I am. And then you can just continue with transparency from there. This is what triggered me, this is what happened, these are the emotions, and this is where I'm at now. Yeah.
That's great. Actually, recently, we had, with a close friend, we had an experience in which there was a miscommunication. One person was hurt, and then through that hurt, they caused the other person to get hurt. And so in that communication, like the process of kind of getting past the situation, we had a situation, it already happened, and so then after that, is instead of talking about what just happened, because we both had different views,